Hey everyone in Facebook world and around the world. We're so excited to be live with you again, and back by popular demand is my buddy, Dr. Don Clum. I'm
Hey,
sure
Barbara.
many of you who are joining us now also watched his Facebook Live yesterday. And that was a really in-depth review. And today we're going to pick up on that and also talk about some other things. So today we're going to talk about hormones, especially because many of you shared his post about where are hormones made. And it's not what we all think, even as doctors. I think a lot of doctors were kind of surprised by that, whoa, wait a second. It's not just all in our hormone organs. I think that's the easiest way to say it. It's in your skin and things that we can do to make our situation worse. So I first want to talk about there are three levels of learning. There's unconscious incompetence, which is I don't even know what I don't know. And I think Dr. Don does a great job in his posts bringing up things that we don't even know. Then there's unconscious incompetent. Then there's conscious incompetence. I know that I don't know. That's the place I find myself in most of the time. And that's why I have my buddy, Dr. Don, who helps me out and helps me understand things. And then there's conscious competence, and that's him. That is, I know that I know that I know. So any of you who watch these broadcasts or follow Dr. Don who say, well, I think it's this way, I'll challenge you on this. And it's like a lot of people who have their ideas about what is chiropractic and what can chiropractic do. And yet they haven't studied it. They don't really understand it. They just come up with their own opinion. You don't get to make it up. So like the broadcast that Dr. Don did last night, when we were chatting before he did the broadcast, I love his like thirst for knowledge.
You can't
So
tell my secrets all the time, Barbara. Come on, Barbara.
So there were 70 articles that he was like trying to figure out which ones is he going to pull from for his broadcast yesterday. I'm like, I don't know, pick one. I don't know about the rest of you watching, but there you go. I haven't even read like one full research study about the topic, let alone 70. So I just encourage you to let go of your ignorance, let go of your dogma, and listen in with an open heart. So I first want to ask you this. So, I think that there's also this idea in the public of, well, anything you do nowadays is going to kill you. So what does it matter? Like, why should I change my diet? Why should I eliminate the stuff I put on my skin? It's all going to kill you anyway. So why not have a good time along the process? Sorry, I got this hair on my face and it's driving me nuts. So what do you say to somebody like that?
I don't say much. I say good luck, and you're welcome to do what you want. Enjoy your stuff. I mean, that's a conscious admittal of doing wrong, and if they just want to justify it, they can justify it. That's just not the path I'm on. And yeah, there's a lot of things against us, but I mean, if we don't, you might be fine right now. You might be okay right now. Yeah, thanks, Shondell. But if you're thinking that way, you're going to go down the path that is very, very bad. And the people, as they go down that path, getting feedback?
No, all good.
Okay, good. People that go down that path, it's misery. And the last 10 years of life, you lose the last 12 to 15 years of life, but the last 10 years that you do have is absolutely decrepit, absolutely ridiculously painful. You lose your mind, your memory, you lose who you are, your personality, you go bankrupt, you suffer. And at that point, you'll be like, why didn't I listen earlier? And it's too late. So now, this carefree, go ahead. I like to be carefree. I like to have fun. But I want the long life. I want to see the grandkids. I want to hang out with the kids. I want to do some stuff. And I want to have vitality and energy as I do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's kind of like, if you want to hold on to that attitude, be willing then later in life to say, hey, you know what, mom, grandma, like mommy didn't care enough to take care of herself all of these years so that I can enjoy them with you now, or to be able to look at your spouse and say, I chose to have a laissez-faire attitude decades ago. So now you're going to have to change my diaper or push me around in a wheelchair, or we can't travel and experience the world, or I can't still be in practice, or whatever it happens to be. Like admit to your stuff. So yeah, there are lots of things that can hurt us, but as soon as that awareness is brought to light, please do the necessary to change it. Especially when it's no harder to be healthy than it is to be unhealthy. It's,
Well,
like you're going to eat every day anyway. Why not put good things into your mouth?
there's two things about these people, and I'm judging here, I'm classifying them, but whatever, we're talking about it, is that these people say, they're the ones that when things really go bad later in life and they get sick, they ask why. God, why me? What happened? I was fine before. No, you don't ask why. You know why. This is why. Okay,
Yeah,
fast forward. This is why. You've made the choice, but they're still going to ask. It's still an emotional thing. And the flip side is, these are also people who probably never had extremely healthy, vibrant, energetic life already. A lot of people in their 30s and 40s, they've grown up overweight, they've grown up with fatigue, they don't sleep well, they're on 4 or 5 different medications. That's just the way, that's normal to them. So they almost don't believe that what you're saying is possible for them. So they don't even think, why would I even go there? I'm getting by. They've never experienced it. But when you've been there, when you've been high vitality, when you've been a high performing person at any level, you know what that is. And you can never unknow that. And as long as you've experienced it, you'll want to go back to that on some level. I guarantee it.
absolutely. And hey, Dr. Tim, thanks for joining us today from Karo Sushi. A shout out there. If you're not enrolled in Summit yet, please do so. May 3rd through the 7th. I'll be there in Las Vegas, and we'd love to have you. So let's talk about that.
How do we erase Sean Dill's comment right there? Can we block him?
Yeah, you're blocked, Dill. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. And so just so that you know, if you do leave a comment below, if you don't want it to pop up, please message me privately so that I don't pop your comment up. But I know it's really helpful to see people's comments, so I try to pop them up there, except Sean Dill. No, just kidding, Sean. We love you. And John, I don't know if you know, Sean and I were in school together at Logan. So shout out to all the Logan grads. But I think that that's really true, that many times we don't even, people don't know how good they can feel because they have felt rotten for so long, that not having energy, being toxic, being, inflamed, constipated, whatever it happens to be, it just has become the norm. So you don't even know how good you could feel. So I invite all of you to step up your game and see how good you can feel. And once you feel great, if you don't like that, if you don't like being, having lots of energy and having people comment about your vibrancy, then go back to the old way. But if you don't take the challenge and step out into doing something new, you don't know how great you feel. So Don, let's talk about for a second, what are some of the common ways that toxification show up, and hormone imbalance? So somebody who's watching this could go, oh my gosh, that's me. I didn't even know that that's what the problem was. Because obviously there's a lot of misdiagnosis out there. So how does hormone imbalance show up commonly? You're muted.
Yeah, that's because my kids are loud upstairs. I just texted them to be quiet, so I hope that doesn't feed back in. But we got to get off of this bandwagon of the diagnosis. It's not served us well. It puts us on the wrong path. Most of the time, it's wrong. Most of the time, real things are missed. The most common reason people go to medical doctors is missed 9 out of 10 times, and that's just the flu, right? And so we learn that through these different pandemics, and so we can't buy into that. Sometimes, most of the time, people don't know what's going on, but they know it's not right. They know their energy's down. They know their mental focus is off. They know they're not sleeping. They know they're gaining weight. They know they don't feel good. They know that they get irritable. They know all these different things that are going on, or they have pain, or they don't move as well. And so they're looking for help as far as that goes. I get that. But what happened in most cases, other than like a trauma, is that you're sick. Okay? If you're sick, you're not well, you're sick. And what you need to do is not treat the sickness, you need to get well. And so you've gone down one road, you need to go down a different road. And so we look for tests, we look for things that can help us, they can clarify, give us some direction, but don't buy into it, because a lot of times they're wrong. Even in the natural world, we don't always know, especially hormones. There's so many of them. There's a lot that we haven't even learned about yet, and how they interact and what they do and all that kind of stuff. So the key is, don't focus on your problem, focus on getting well. Focus on the big thing. People want to lose weight. People want to feel better. You don't do something to feel better that gets you well, right? You don't lose weight to get well. You get well, you get healthy, and your body starts to lose weight, and you start to feel better. It's the other way around. You can't chase it. You chase all these symptoms, you'll catch nothing, and you won't progress. That's why I just did a post today on the progression of prediabetes to type 2 diabetes. 20 years ago, they've been doing these diabetes prevention programs that they rein in as a big success. They scream from the mountaintops. But when you look at the 20-year data, it didn't prevent the heart attacks. It didn't prevent heart disease. It didn't help them lengthen their life or improve their quality of life at the end of life. Everything that happens to a type 2 diabetic still happened, even though they went through the successful pre-diabetic program. In fact, the people who were in the same category who didn't do that program got diabetes 19% less than the people who did. So you can even argue that it's causing that problem. Why? Because they're looking at managing, look at dropping weight and balancing blood sugar or controlling calories, some kind of symptom or outside concept to make them better. When in reality, if they were to get better, their weight, their blood sugar, and the outside symptoms would handle themselves. It's a very fundamental philosophy in chiropractic, in natural healing, in a lot of different realms, but it's the truth. There's no way around it.
So I don't know about anybody else, just my head is spinning now from all that. So let's go back to the beginning of what you were just talking about with the flawed system, and let's break it down, because that was just a lot. I know not in your head, but in mine, and I have to believe most people watching. So let's just start from the beginning again and go step by step. So what is flawed from the past that people are holding to be true about, let's just take blood sugar?
All right. There's several. Blood sugar is a symptom. It's correlated tightly with insulin. It's something you can measure. It's something you can interpret and things like that. But it is not the problem. High blood sugar, I mean, if it gets really, really high for long, it can cause problems. But in general, for most people in type 2 diabetes, it's not the high blood sugar. It's the insulin issue. It's the insulin that they're using as a correlate to regulate blood sugar, even though insulin was never designed in our body, divinely or otherwise, to regulate blood sugar, but we use it that way. Why? Because we can, right? And so they're looking at the wrong way. It's like going to England as an American and going across the street, looking the wrong way on the road and getting hit by a bus because you're looking the absolute wrong way. And whack, that's why they have those big signs, mind the gap. We have to at least make sure we're looking in the right direction. That's why I say we don't need to change our needle, our direction on our compass. We need a new map. We need to redefine this thing, and we need to go from that. We need to go from the big picture down and stop looking at these little things and try and interpret backwards. It doesn't work. It kills us.
So for those of you who caught the live that I did with Dr. Don a few weeks ago, my husband and I keep saying this to each other about insulin, and I think Dr. Don had a great analogy about insulin and the shark and the little fish. Can you go through that again? Because I know I keep saying that to myself, like, Barb, if you do something that's going to spike your insulin, the shark's in and everything else is gone. So let's just quickly go through that one more time, and then we're going to jump into this whole idea of hormone balancing real quickly. So explain that again first as it relates to insulin and then hormones.
Sure. Well, in all the hormones, they all work together, and they all have friends and they have foes. Okay, the friends are like old college roommates. You get together, great stuff comes on. The foes are like when you get together, it's oil and vinegar, and they fight. Okay, and they make things worse in your body. Insulin is one of the ultimate, if not the ultimate, hormonal disruptors. I call him or her, I don't know what you want to call insulin, the bully on the playground. The bully shows up, all the kids, their whole day is wrecked. They don't like to be there. They don't do the things. It's like when you're looking at a big, beautiful coral reef underwater fish tank. And it's all beautiful, and they got all these different things on the coral. You got these different plant life. You got these different fish going up and down, turtles, what have you, right? Beautiful, serene, calming. And then here comes the big predator, the shark. Shark shows up. What happens to that coral reef? It goes dark. It goes dormant. Everyone takes off. All the beautiful fish, all of the ecosystem shuts down because of that bully on the playground, because of that shark. It just interrupted our whole tranquil scene. No, it's not the shark's fault. The shark does what the shark does, right? Because it's a shark, right? But we want everything playing nice. We want the full ecosystem. And so when we're doing stuff in our life, through other hormones, through food, through our lifestyle, that brings on this large insulin exposure or an overexposure over time, we're bringing out the shark. And we're chasing away all the other beautiful hormones that need to be balanced and playing that aren't, who want to be on the playground as well, who want to be part of this ecosystem, and they're not. Things like oxytocin, things like glucagon, things like human growth hormone, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, all these different balances, thyroid hormone. Even cortisol is a good guy, but when he's paired up with its old friend from college that used to get in trouble, they get in trouble together and make things worse, right? And so it's like, it's all about the relationships, how they balance. And then you look at how's that working in the overall system. I talk about the neuroendocrine system, the nervous system connecting with the hormones is the full circle of communication and balance in our body. Ignore one and you're going to drive the other. Drive one and you're ignoring the other, and you don't want to do that.
Okay, so let's go back to insulin for just a second. So how does this show up in everyday life where the shark is the only one on the scenes and the other players, the other fish, or the shark, the bully, which is doing what it was designed to do? I think that was a great point. It's not that insulin is a bad thing. It has a purpose. It has a role. So let's first define, what is it really in the best case scenario? What is insulin supposed to do, and how is it supposed to function so that it's our friend instead of our foe?
Yeah, first and foremost, it all comes down to the mechanics and machinery that we've developed in our life. We've trained our body to work a certain way. You see someone who's ripped and muscular and in shape and balanced. They didn't wake up that way. They didn't get there on accident. They work towards that. They train their body. We know how hard it is to get under 10% body fat and all that kind of stuff, or to lift over 500 pounds. That took work, not haphazard at all whatsoever. Right? And the same thing, we train our body through our lifestyle, and it builds these mechanisms. And if we are overexposed to one, we're building, essentially we're building one body versus the other. Insulin's role is to be a secondary hormone for sugar and energy storage. That's it. It's not for blood sugar. It doesn't make 80% of our cells don't need insulin, or don't even have insulin transport in them. And the ones that do don't use insulin transport for their own energy. They use insulin transport to store energy, as in glycogen in the muscle, in the liver, or as in fat. That's it. The brain doesn't need insulin. The rest of the body doesn't need insulin. There's 12 different GLUTs, or the transporters of insulin. GLUT4 is the only one that's insulin dependent. Look at type 1 diabetics. Untreated type 1 diabetics live to 7 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old before they die, unfortunately. But they live. They don't shut down. Insulin is not needed in the day-to-day. It's needed overall. And how do they die? They waste away. Everything wasted. You look at those pictures, you see the ribs. It looks like a starving kid in Africa, even though they're feeding them. And they're feeding them and they're feeding them. They just can't. They can't store it. They can't process it. And eventually it plays a toll. Right? And so that's having no insulin. The opposite side is insulin. We get so much, the body can't keep doing what we want it to. We're screaming at it to do something. And it's like, I can't. We're saying store sugar, store fat. The body's going, I'm full. My pockets are full. There's no more sugar to be stored. All I can do is put on some fat, and I'm going as fast as I can. And it just can't keep up. And we keep triggering it, and then it starts to show up in our blood, and it starts to spill over in these other areas. And then we say, oh, look, there's a problem. We have a disease. We have insulin resistance. It's like saying I have a 12 carton of eggs, full of eggs, all 12. And I want to take 2 more eggs and put them in. They don't fit. Now, is that carton egg resistant? No, that carton is full. It can't put any more in, and that's what happens. We've overdone this whole process, and it comes down to how, more than anything, how we eat. Insulin is stimulated primarily by carbohydrates. Not from the carbohydrates or sugar in your blood, but from what you eat once it hits your stomach. From your mouth to your stomach to the top of your intestine, the body's already saying, okay, we're getting ready for this food. So 27, so a good 27% of insulin overall exposure is from those carbohydrates. Okay, 10% is from protein. Protein also stimulates insulin as well. If it's denatured protein, as in protein powder, it stimulates even more, as in isolated amino acids or branched chain amino acids, stimulates it like a sugar, right? And so now we got 37% of our insulin exposure, which leaves 63% of all the insulin interactions from other hormones and from other things that we do in our lifestyle. So there's a lot to it. The number one reason, though, is overexposure to sugar, grains, and processed foods, including processed proteins and processed fats. Those set off everything, and we do it constantly, continuously. We've been trained to eat 5 to 7 times a day. Don't skip a meal. Don't skip a snack every single day. And we run out of pocket room. We run out of everything. And so the body's just going, what the heck? It's not its fault, right? Insulin is like, you keep calling me here. You keep putting the shark bait out. And so I'm here. And now you're pissed off that there's no other fish. Not my fault. Stop putting the bait
that's
out.
a great visual.
Stop putting the bait out.
So then how does that, so then let's talk about what happens physiologically when insulin's on the playground, when the shark is there. Like, what's happening with all of the other hormones? Are they just dormant, and so they can't, like, let's talk about that. When they're not on the playing field, what happens physiologically?
Well, think about, they're always on the playing field, whether they're playing or not, and whether they're encouraged or whether they're bullied, right? And so you think of insulin in the center. I think of insulin, and then I think of a teeter-totter, where two kids sit on one side, one goes up, the other goes down, all right? Insulin's on one side, and there's other hormones on the other side. Like the number one hormone is human growth hormone. So as we raise insulin through our diet and our lifestyle, we're dropping human growth hormone. That's our repair hormone. That's our healing hormone. We don't want that, okay? That's repair, big deal. Insulin is growth. And the only time we really want a lot of growth around is when we're a kid growing up, when we're a mama making a baby, and that's about it. Otherwise, other growths, like the big C word, show up, and that's a whole other talk we can talk about. So insulin's up, human growth hormone's down. When cortisol comes in, those guys grab hands, and they make each other worse. They magnify each other. The way you start to go up like this together. And then as insulin brings up cortisol, or cortisol brings up insulin, cortisol is on a line, on a teeter-totter with things like testosterone. Goes down. Things like estrogen, they gets thrown off. Things like oxytocin, our love, bonding, feel-good, motivational hormone, or courage hormone, gets driven down really low. And so you start to see all these different effects. It's like having weights that you're going to weigh things on a scale, but there's 400 plates with weights on it, and you're in the middle, and they're all connected, and you're in the middle with a hammer hitting insulin. And you're going, oh, but why are these other hormones messed up? They're all connected. They all play like that as well. And then you go into a different state, your neuroendocrine state. Nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Either driving up sympathetic, or maybe you're keeping down parasympathetic. That's what insulin does. Insulin is a sympathetic stimulator. It drives down parasympathetic. That sets up a certain cascade in our body. Not good, right? Not good. And then you also have the endocrine. Again, insulin is a growth hormone. So now you're in a growth state. You don't want to be in that. You want to have a little bit of growth, a whole lot of repair. Everything that we think is growth, like growing muscles and growing stronger, and this, it's all repair. It's not really growth. And so on that parasympathetic, you have another bit. So there's all these different balances that when in insulin and cortisol, the only two hormones that you can constantly promote, constantly activate through your actions and choices throughout the day, the main ones, right? And so we're just driving the heck out of them and just throwing everything off, causing all these different problems. When in reality, if we just get that under control first, who knows, 60, 70, 80% of those problems can start to go away. We can look at what's still there and see what's really going on. Because a lot of times people are chasing something that's really a secondary effect of something else. Talk about frustrating.
So,
that makes sense or too much?
No. And please, anyone watching, if you have questions, comments, if you pop them in there, then we can see them and answer them. Otherwise, we're just going off of our conversation, and you're kind of, eavesdropping, which we're totally glad you're here. But really, this is about answering your questions. You brought up a really good point about when insulin is high and our other hormones are low. One of the things that can disappear is courage. And I think about individuals who are overweight, and therefore they don't want to be around other people, or a child who's overweight, and so they just kind of like stay as a wallflower. Well, it's not. There's the psychosomatic, right? That they have a physiological issue, a physiological decline in their health happening, which is now also affecting their psyche. So it's not just like
we can back that up. That goes back to our earlier analogy. When people put on weight and become obese, when people get put on weight and their energy goes down, their willpower goes down, and then we say, oh, they're sloth, they're glutton, they overdo it. Those are symptoms. You don't gain weight and get sick. You have a sick process going in your body, and you gain weight. Insulin's the part of the problem. It causes the weight gain, and eventually causes the lower energy, eventually causes the mind disconnect, the brain fog, the loss of willpower, and it causes your energy, all these different things that we thought caused the weight gain. It didn't. It's a symptom of.
Yeah.
People don't get fat then sick. They get sick then fat. Okay? And then once they're getting fat, people don't get fat and become sick. People are sick and they become fat. And then we're reading all these things off. It's a symptom thereof. Because if you handle the insulin problem, the weight will start to come off. How much, how fast, we don't know. There's a lot of genetic elements in there too, but it starts to change. And you can change someone's metabolic profile from sick to healthy before they lose a pound, even a pound. And then they can still go on to lose another 100 pounds, but we can work on that. It's independent of weight loss, but it's also what drives weight gain. Follow me for the most part.
So So let's just give everybody like something to quote unquote chew on. If they're watching this and they're like, all right, that's it. You know what? I really want to deal with this insulin resistance that I'm clearly sick. Like they finally recognize I'm sick. I'm not fat. I'm sick, which has now made me overweight. Or my hormones aren't unbalanced. I'm sick, which now my hormones are unbalanced. Like put that in proper order. What can you give just like a couple of quick directions on immediate changes they could make to their diet, to their nutritional intake in order to move from being insulin resistant to moving in a progression of wellness?
Yeah, first step that we want to do is we decrease the exposure of insulin because it's from high exposure and overexposure. So first we're going after the overexposure. And the way you do that is you just eat 3 meals a day. Now look, anytime you eat something, I don't care if it's a handful of almonds or some cut up apples with peanut butter, and you think it's healthy, therefore it's not a meal or a snack, BS. You know, every time you eat something or drink something with calories or chemicals in it, it's a meal. It's eating. So eat 3 times a day. It can be as simple as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't care how you space it out. Don't send me those questions. Just do it. And don't snack in between. Don't snack at night. I'm not telling you how much to eat in those meals. Eat till you're content. I'm not telling you what to put in those meals. Don't even change anything yet. Just make it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and do it for a week, and you'll start to see a shift. I guarantee it. Right there, right then. Cut down the overexposure of insulin by cutting down your meal frequency. Most people do not eat too much. They eat too often. Got that? That's why calories, we're not talking about that either right now. Most people don't eat too much. They eat too often. So cut down the frequency and you'll start to see a change right away in that. Then you can start work because once that insulin starts to come down, that's what drives hunger. Short-term hunger is aberrant, is artificial. It's not real. There's no such thing. That's toxicity reaction, that's carb addiction reaction, that's a lot of different things. So that's exposure to insulin issue. You bring down on it, hunger starts to get manageable after a couple of days, right? And then cravings. Oh, I'm not driven. I don't have the impulse. I don't have the grind to get something. And then what we thought was emotional eating starts to fade. Now that's all that behavioral stuff is responding to your metabolism and you're going in the right direction. Then once you got that going a little bit, then you can do a little bit more. Every other day, skip breakfast. All right, that's cutting down on your meal frequency. That's extending your overnight fast. Those are advanced concepts we can get into. And then after that starts to feel good, or even before you do that, you can just, once you're eating 3 meals a day, start adding healthy fats to each meal as an ingredient, not just cooking with it, as an ingredient. I didn't say change what you're eating. I'm saying add something and make it fat. Just make it a good healthy fat, 1/8 of an avocado to 1/4 of an avocado, 6 olives, some extra butter, what have you. Add it. And then watch this trajectory continue. And then once you're feeling better from that, because once all those other things driving your behavior before are gone, you feel like your confidence comes back. It was never gone. You don't have the symptom bringing you down. Okay. And so now you make better choices. Now you can say, oh, I can cut out that bread. I can cut out that pasta. I can cut out that rice. I can cut out that sugar, maybe little by little. And now you're moving forward and you haven't, you're weeks into it. Your body's changed. Your waistline's down. You've lost some weight. You're sleeping better. You have a little bit more energy. You start to progress. It's a long-term thing. Don't just jump out and do a 5-day fast like I talk about. We do rotation. We build people up to that. You have to build that mechanism. You have to build those internal muscles to be able to handle it. Otherwise, it's not a fast. It's a purge. You're not healing. You're just dumping. You know what I mean? So that's how I would approach it.
Perfect. So to recap what Dr. Don says, don't change anything about what you're eating. Just drop the snacking. And it's so funny. We have, nuts and all kinds of stuff sitting right on the counter. And it's just become like a habit where I'll go and grab a couple cashews or almonds or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's not time for a meal and I'm not really hungry. And Dr. Don will pop into my head like 3 times a day. That's it. And so don't focus right now on, oh, I've got to eliminate this. I got to do this. Is that coffee?
Most people drink a meal in their coffee.
Yes.
Sugar, milk, skim milk, soy milk, chocolate, vanilla. That's a meal. That's a bad meal too, by the way. So we don't even realize it, what we're doing. When they actually did studies in the 70s on actual meal frequency and really track people, they ate 14 to 22 times a day.
Oh, I believe
Not
it.
5 to 7. 14. That's every time they did this. 14 to
Yeah.
22 times a day. So it's so when people say, "Oh, I don't know what the problem is. I have all this. I'm totally insulin resistant, but I don't snack." I'm trying to be nice, but you're lying. There's something, or there's something majorly going on, or you just started. But I mean, you can track this stuff, or you don't realize you do it. Like you said, a few nuts here. My coffee doesn't count. Well, this doesn't count. Well, I just, that.
So is it safe to say if something goes in your mouth besides just plain water, it's a meal? Like even a mint, right? Even like you put a breath mint in, your body has to respond to that in some way. Is it like, I know that's kind of a generalization. You don't like to make generalizations, but just for like the broad scope of bringing about awareness, is it safe to call it that or not so much?
Yeah, it's not a meal. It's eating. You're eating. So we're talking about eating frequency. So, I mean, if you don't want to eat 3 meals a day in the beginning, you want 2 meals and a snack. I mean, I don't want to split hairs over this, but yeah, mint. As much as other people prefer, when I do take one, my body doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
It does count. Is that going to make the tipping point? No, but to answer your question, it does.
Yeah. So it's just awareness. And I think that what you're trying to bring to light, and correct me if I'm wrong, is an awareness of, listen, your body has to respond when you put things in here. Like it can't just
your body starts to respond when you think about it. The body starts to respond when you smell it. Okay, the body starts to respond. Your insulin's already getting primed as soon as it's in your mouth before it even gets into those triggers. There's an incretin effect. There's a reflex in there. Anything sweet, you can have a 0 calorie, 0 sugar, artificial sweetener, and you're starting to prime that pump already. So whatever you do eat gets magnified. And so it starts in the mind. So I mean, awareness is key. You have to change how you look at this. You have to change how your expectations of this. And then you start to change your thinking changes first. That helps with emotions and behavior and then the downstream. So you just got to build that. That's why learning. That's why I put all this stuff out for free out there. A lot of information, is because you just got to absorb it and redo it. That's why I read all these studies. You got to just keep doing it because that's the only way we're going to make a change. Because the default right now is sickness and early death and misery at the end of your life. And it's getting worse every 10 years. Every 10 years. It's bad.
And there's almost like a submission to it. Like, I'm 50. Of course I'm supposed to be on 7 drugs. Of course I'm supposed to have high blood pressure. Of course. And I'm just like, no, you're designed to be well, not designed to be sick. You're designed for full expression. Correct. Not sickness. So let's deal with them.
You're suppressing major epigenetic and genetic expression to be sick. It doesn't happen lightly. It doesn't happen easily. You've had to turn off hundreds of genes and then activate dozens of other ones to make yourself sick. But you've done it. So it's not, you are going against the grain. You're not expressing what you're supposed to be expressing, what you could be expressing. You have down-regulated it all. You've done this. All right. And so most of the time we don't have to turn things up. Oh, my hormones are low. We don't have to raise your hormones. Well, my neurotransmitters are low. You don't have to raise it. You don't have to lower it. You have to get out of the way. You don't have to raise your testosterone or raise this other thing. You have to stop lowering it. Okay. You don't have to try to intentionally crush your insulin. You got to stop raising it. You got to get out of the way. The first step to detoxification. You want to detox? Stop retoxing. Step number 1. You're not willing to do that. Go about your business. There's nothing I can do for you.
What do you mean by that? So let's stop there for just a second, and then we'll get to Bob's question, then Karen's, and then Crystal's. So what's the difference between detoxification and retoxification?
Well, retox is we keep doing it to ourselves. We keep doing the actions. We keep doing the behavior. We keep doing the thinking that's pushing us down the sickness line. If it's stimulating insulin, we keep eating the sugar. I have to have my bread. Like Oprah says, I lost weight and I didn't have to give up my bread. You own half of Weight Watchers. I wonder why you're saying that. And that's still going to keep people sick. That's still going to keep people sick. And so they're not willing to. So you have to stop putting the negative stimulus in if you want the positive reaction to show up. You got to get the shark out of the aquarium, off of the coral reef before the other ones will come out. Otherwise, they put themselves at risk and they're not going to do that.
Yeah. And we're not saying kill the shark. It's just the
No,
shark doesn't have to be the only one. And I'm glad you bring that up. So many commercials. I didn't have to change anything I was eating. I still got to eat pizza and cupcakes, but it came in a package from Nutrisystem. That's
you're
not
still
food,
safe.
by
You're
the
still safe.
way.
I have the study. That's a good one. Here they are. Oh, I don't know. Now I got them all mixed up. Thanks, Barbara.
Dr.
Yeah.
Don. See, if you only had none or one, it would be easy. But Dr. Don is like so over the top educated. And I'll challenge
Mm.
all of you, if you have a different opinion, please first, before you're going to
No,
come to
I don't need any challenges. Don't get me in trouble here,
no, wait a
Barbara.
second. I have a rule about that. And I had a rule about this in practice too, especially when it came to like vaccines. Until and unless you're willing to do the research that you can do on your own, I'm not willing to engage in the conversation, because I've done the study, I've done the research, and this is what I've come up with. It's not just my opinion. And Dr. Don isn't just saying this is his opinion. This is based on reading the actual research, and that's where he's coming up with it. So while you're looking for that, Bob asked, what is being spoken about called epigenetics?
Epigenetics is how you engage with your genes. It's how you turn things on and you drive them through your environment. Not your hardcore set that you're going to be a man or you're a woman or you're going to be this tall or that tall. Those are your structural type sets. But how your body functions, how it expresses and reacts to hormones, to neurotransmitters, to stimuli, how it produces antioxidants, how it provides health, or how it reacts to illness. That's all epigenetic, and that comes from our environment. 100% from our environment. And the environment includes our thinking, so don't forget that. And so when you turn them on, and the problem is you can turn on certain combinations of these things, and then you can pass them to your kids. They're multi-generational, so they're very important. They're not just on you; they're on everyone around you. So you can have absolute control over that. So you can turn on good genes, you can turn off bad genes, or you can do the opposite, which is what most people are doing. That's what we're trying to overcome.
That's a really great point. I used to say that all the time. Like, you pass on subluxation. So if you take subluxated daddy, subluxated mommy, they can't come together and make unsubluxated child. So that's why it's so important for parents or individuals who eventually want to be a parent. You better take really good care of yourself, because you are going to pass that on. So even the term epigenetics, epi is above. So it's taking your genetics and how well are you allowing those to express themselves at optimum potential. Is that kind of like a summary?
Yeah, I mean, that's good.
Okay. So Karen says, and I think let's answer
Insulin-friendly
this,
food.
but
Well,
let's first just talk about it in the terms of, if you're not doing anything right now, please, please, please just start by only putting stuff besides water in your mouth 3 times a day. It doesn't even matter what you're putting in. Just start by only feeding yourself 3 times a day. Even if you just start with that, you're moving in the right direction from sickness to a wellness paradigm. And then as you get better at that, then let's look at substituting and all that other stuff. But
Well,
just
if you want a true test of the strength or the integrity of your metabolism, of your neuroendocrine system, see how long you can go without food and how you feel. If you can't skip a snack or a meal or go a day comfortably, reasonably without food, your system is really weak and in trouble. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So that's a good little indicator. Do it for yourself, keep it to yourself, but you'll know. Just like people who really want to test things, go test your blood sugar. You want to check your family's blood sugar. I'm serious, check it, and you will be shocked. Most people, they just assume it's not. So insulin-friendly foods are, fat doesn't stimulate insulin. So that's why we like a lot of healthy fats, so we go high fat. Protein is a little bit of a stimulation. It's moderate, so we go moderate protein, okay, with a little fat on it, even better. Like I had steak and eggs for breakfast. And then fibrous carbs, non-starch, non-fiber, non-sugar, non-grain based carbs, and basically whole foods. Whole food, nothing that's been processed. The only processing you want is from oil that's been pressed. And if that's a one-step processing. But no vegetable oil, no margarine, no Crisco, nothing that's been processed or distilled or whatever. And just stick to whole foods. You get down to the basics and eat 3 times a day, and you'll be on the right road. Will it do everything? I don't know, probably not, but you'll be on the right road.
So Crystal asked, I've heard that having protein between meals is important for your metabolism and energy. What is the problem with that? Just like a handful of almonds or something like Dr. Barbara just mentioned.
That's just what we're talking about. It stimulates insulin. Protein not only stimulates insulin, but it stimulates a pathway called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. That is the protein pathway equivalent to insulin as it is for glucose. It ages us. It causes problems. It does all the negative stuff. We don't want to do that. And so you can overdo it. That's why paleo is not the same as high fat. Paleo goes higher protein, or Atkins, very high protein. That's not a good idea. You want that. You don't need that much. You want to recycle your proteins, not take new ones and dump old ones, right? And that causes stress inside your cells. And so, no, your metabolism doesn't change day to day. Okay, you don't have 2,500 calories today and 3,000 tomorrow. No, your metabolism is set based on your age, your sex, and your lean body mass. And it doesn't matter if you did 2 hours of exercise today. It doesn't go up with it. You don't get extra calories. It doesn't matter if you skip the meal. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? But day over day, as you shift that body mass, you shift that profile, it can change. But today versus yesterday versus tomorrow, do I get a Sunday because I did extra exercise because I got those extra calories? No, you didn't. That's a whole other topic, but you didn't. So what it does is it just keeps insulin popping up. It just continues to overexpose us to insulin. You don't need to do it, and you don't want to do it.
So, Krista, I assume that probably answered your question. If it didn't, please just make another comment below. Basically, what you've heard about protein is really, really, it's a common myth that will just make you sicker. So the focus is 3 times a day. So I want to get to, because several people, when I reposted your post about hormones and where are hormones made and be careful of the toxicity on your skin. Let's jump to that. So let's first talk about where hormones are made. How do you know, like, where are you getting this from, that the skin plays such a huge role? And then the list of potential blockers of our hormones that are in common products. What do we do? Like, what do you do about the fact that so much of our society and the things that we buy have those in it? How do we stay healthy?
Well, glad you're asking such simple questions there, Barbara.
Hey, but, right, so wait.
Hold on, let me get there. I got it. Okay, first, skin. There's some great studies. These will be backwards probably. Look up skin as an endocrine organ. Skin as an independent peripheral or endocrine organ is written by the same group of people, Christos Zobulius, and it's just fantastic. And you'll see, and what they show is that we don't find things out till we look for them. Rarely do we find things in accident anymore. So now they're looking at these things and they realize that 75% of women's estrogen is made in the skin for the body. 50% of men's testosterone made in the skin for the body. 100% of women's estrogen after menopause is made in the skin for the body. It has thyroid receptors, has growth hormone receptors. It produces a massive amount of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor number 1, and it produces a ton of insulin-like growth factor binding hormone. All, don't have to remember them, major cancer players in there. Okay, never mind the hormone vitamin D that's in there. It all plays together. And your skin is an endocrine organ, not a gland, not just an organ. And it's 10% of your body weight at normal weight. It's more if you weigh more. So it's a major player. It has its own independent axis, separate from inside your body, separate from your thalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. So it's playing and feeding. It's doing its own thing. It's responding back. It's a major player. And so that's a big surprise for a lot of people. But the skin, we need to put more attention to that. And so we're creating protocols now every day to how we can do that from the outside in as well as the inside out, because this is our membrane. This is our epigenetic contact with the world, if you want to think of it that way.
That's a great way to put it. Your epigenetic contact with the world. So if we go back and build, right, we said your epigenetics are like this is your maximum, this is your genetic code. And now you can either make it so it's going to be awesome and express at optimum potential, or because of the things that you're doing, you're thinking, you're exposed to, you drop it down. Totally your choice. And a lot of it we stop by ignorance. And that's why we're doing these Facebook Lives. That's why Dr. Don has tons of posts. I encourage you, if you want to have access to real intensive, like, so that you can take these concepts and they're just about you and just about your family, please make sure you email Dr. Don and mainly get in touch with him via Facebook. I put his Facebook connection up there, and I'll put it on the comments as well. But if you're really serious about this, don't just keep playing. Don't just keep reading. Knowledge isn't going to change your behavior, but actually being held accountable to somebody who can take a real look at, this is the sickness of your body now. And if you want to be well, these are the things that we have to do. Like newsflash, yep, you're going to have to make changes. I have to make changes. Dr. Don has made changes. Dr. Dana, who is his wife, their children. And in order to be well, we can't keep doing the things that we're doing now.
I appreciate all of the accolades for the stuff that we put out there, but this is a purely selfish endeavor. I live this life. I teach my wife, or that was the wrong thing to say. I'll get in trouble for that. I teach my kids. My family does this. We do this first. I learned this for me. Mm-hmm. And then I pass it on to my family because that's first and foremost. And as I learn, I share it with everyone else because there's things that I come up with. I go, I didn't know that. I think I should have, or I knew the opposite, or this is really interesting. And it helps me move down the road, even if it's just a tiny step. I want it because I have to work on myself. I've had, our metabolic histories are all different. We hold metabolic scars. We've done stupid things when we were younger. We're dealing with stuff now. Life changes. I got teenagers. Holy crow. It's a whole different world, and I'm in it with you. So, I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys like everything, but don't get too off. It's a selfish endeavor.
And I will tell you, I'm going to put Dr. Don on the spot here because I'm pushing him to do this, is develop short programs that people can jump in and take a more intensive, I'm doing it, a more intensive look at, all right, I want to look at fasting. What does that have to do with my life? I want to look at this and insulin resistance. I'm reading your stuff, but I just need to make it real for me. So I'm putting Dr. Don on the spot. Those are coming to you, so be watching for them. Please sign up. They're worth the investment in your life. I hate to see you at 50 or 60 or 70 going, oh man, I should have done that then. Well, now is your invitation to change shoulda, because if you should all over yourself, that's not pretty. And take the action now as soon as he launches them, which I'm going to.
Well, in the meantime, Barbara, we talked about it. You can give them my email address. If someone's dealing with this, they need that, and they need a little customization, they want to see what the process is like, other than the nice facts that we're dropping around, they can email me and say, hey, let's do a 10, 15-minute phone consult, no charge, and we can go from there, and we can start with that. And even after this is a recording, if people want to do that, I'll keep accepting that until I can't. And if I can't, I'll put in an autoresponder and you'll know. And so we can start with that. So people have done that through other concepts, and it just helps get you in the right direction, because the concepts that we talk about, people kind of know a lot about them. Some of these nitty gritty things they might not, but they know. But it's about putting it together in the right way, knowing what you're dealing with. I call it the insulin metabolic profile. You got to know what you're dealing with. You're different than me. We're different than someone else, someone younger, someone older, who's got a history of this, on hormones, on medications. There's a million variables now. And once we get that, then we can set up a plan. Start with 6 months. Say, this is how I would go about it, month by month by month. 1 month builds on the next month, and you start to go. Because if this is a lifestyle program, you don't have to do it in 6 days. And if you try, don't call me. I don't care. That's not my gig. I know that you're just making our great plans into gimmicks. You're making this diet into a diet. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. It's understanding. It's a physiology that we're trying to create to make us better. And so if you're not willing to take at least 6 months and go at it, then I'm not the right person to be following, because nothing I talk about is treatment based or now centered.
Yeah, it's not an overnight fix. That's for sure.
But it can be fixed. It's amazing. There's studies out right now that show that there's different ways to approach this naturally, holistically, the way we've been doing it now for 6 years or so, that actually reverses diabetes, as in brings back insulin function, brings back insulin cells, the beta cells in the pancreas, brings back general pancreatic cells, and manages glucose in type 2 diabetics. Completely reverse normal, better pancreas than when they started. That used to be considered impossible. You see, medical thinking is behind. It used to be considered impossible. And then they tried it on type 1s, and it worked well with them too. Type 1s getting cells back in their pancreas that were dead and getting insulin production that wasn't there before. Unheard of. So much so, today, if not tomorrow, is day 60 with a gentleman I'm working with who's a type 1 on no insulin and perfectly ideal, pristine blood glucose numbers. That wasn't possible. That's not possible if you ask out there people who don't know these things. Right? But there's so much out there, and the way you do it and approach it and customize it, you can change it. You can decrease, and pancreas is down the road. You can decrease that body fat, that fatty liver, everything that we're talking about. You can do that. Just how you just want to approach it well.
So that's a really great point that you bring up. So for those of you who are doing something else and then you just came back. So here's type 1 diabetic, 60 days. I mean, we're only talking 2 months. That's like nothing to change his whole profile is amazing. So
No. Wait. We've been working together for 9 months or 10 months. It's been 2 months with no insulin.
Okay, no, 2 months of no insulin, but only
insulin dependent diabetes. Yeah, we've been working. We've had a long way to come and to figure this out. It's not linear, but we've gotten to the point where he's 60 days consecutive, no insulin at all, not slow acting, not nothing, no orals, no metformin, no other things, purely lifestyle and some supplement stuff that he's doing, but lifestyle based stuff that has got him to a normal, and his blood sugars are better than some of the athletes I work with.
So the point about this, so 60 days of this gentleman, in my opinion, being released from a prison of probably he was told you're going to be on insulin the rest of your life.
Correct.
I mean, most type 1 diabetics, that's what they're told. Like,
look it up. That's all. That's it. Yeah, that is it.
That's the best you're going to get, is you're going to be on insulin the rest of your life. So whether it takes a year or 2 years to get to the point where you are not having to take insulin in your body, your genes are expressing the way they're supposed to express. That's amazing to me. Like, that's a huge miracle. That should be on the 6 o'clock news. Of course it won't be, because there's no one endorsing it with a bunch of money called Big Pharma. But Don, I want to ask you, so let's say a doctor or another healthcare professional is watching this, and they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the confidence that you have, and helping practice members or their patients see that there's another option. Could they get in touch with you, and you would be willing to be interviewed on their page about this kind of more advanced healthcare, so that their practice members or their patients could start taking the steps in the right direction? And if so, do they do that through donclum at Yahoo?
No, they just find me on Facebook and message me. That's my favorite way to do it, because then I can send back voice messages, which saves me a lot of typing time. Okay. It's very efficient. But I mean, we can talk about that. I work with a lot of different practitioners who refer me people. Some people want to, learn how to do this more themselves. And we're trying to create a program to help that, at least on a lifestyle. They don't have to change their practice, their style, their technique, or whatever they're doing. They don't have to get into nutrition. When you're talking about lifestyle from this point of view, it's all encompassing. All it's doing is expanding your context so that you can pinpoint your content to make it matter to the person in front of you, to help them move along with whatever you're doing. And they all have a lifestyle, so it's natural, and you don't even have to use products. You can do it. So but you want to know these new things, because they're showing great success, and the medical side's not talking about it. They don't know about it.
Awesome. I think that there's great hope for individuals to live well. We have to start with a new way to think about it, and that starts with all of us who are teaching people, who are leading them to first become educated ourselves about what's possible, and then to be able to present it in a clear and concise way. So any last minute thoughts, questions?
Last minute thought here. I found those two studies I was looking for. These are long-term studies, 14 to 20-year studies on the traditional diets, like the Weight Watchers, I don't know if I'm supposed to say names, and the Jenny Craigs, and the government-based and the medical-based and diabetes prevention programs that are being used around the world. And they basically show after 20 years they didn't work. They did not prevent diabetes. They did not prevent heart disease. They did not prevent heart attacks. They did not improve their life or their quality of life or change mortality. In fact, the people that went through the program had a 19% higher chance of getting type 2 diabetes than people who didn't. That's shocking. What that means is that not only do they not work, they push you in the wrong direction. So not only should you be looking for something, you have to. Because my program and what I'm talking about may not be the end all, may not be the ultimate, but we know the current model isn't, for sure. That's been proven. So all I know is I'm not doing that, and you shouldn't either. And so I have an option. Other people have options, but get out of that model. Fast.
Yeah, it's broken for sure. So I'm kind of putting Dr. Don on the spot, but any other questions that come up, if you put them below and you're watching this when we're not live, I know he'll get back in touch with you, whether privately or live, so everyone can see your answers. Not live, whether it's a video message that he has in response to your question or your comment, or he simply gives you a response or directs you to a post that he has made at another time. So please, at any time, if you're watching this, if you do have a question, we do care about your questions. That's why we're doing this, is to raise up the awareness, raise up the knowledge, so that we all can express our optimum potential. So please do put those messages below. Dr. Don, thanks so much. It's always just a blast to hang out with you and to be able to tap into your brilliance. And you are brilliant, by the way. So thanks again. We really appreciate you. So God bless you all.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
everybody.
and
Thank you, Dr.
stay
Barbara.
tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.
Take care.